So today's webinar is to support effective online learning. We had over 100 practitioners yesterday who joined us, and I said thank you to them for joining us, and I say thank you to you again because it's an incredibly difficult time. It's a challenging time for everyone involved. So thank you for coming along today. Today is going to serve as two main purposes. One is it's going to tell you that what you're doing in your classrooms already is really effective. It's really working. And if it isn't, we'll maybe provide some hints and tips along the way to kind of the things you can do. Everything has been collated from good practice within the internet and from the internet. It's examples of what happens in Scotland, examples of other practitioners who have not just been using effective online learning online during lockdown, but have been using it for many years and using it in their different virtual environments. So today, as I said, hopefully give you a bit of confidence, or also show you some little things and little hints and tips you can use within your classrooms to kind of help everybody along the kind of bumpy road that is ahead of us, unfortunately. Our outcomes really, as I said, within CPD Manager, is to give people ideas for how you can organise and simplify to support effective online learning. Online learning looks completely different at the moment than it did at the first lockdown. Everybody has had the chance and time and opportunity to kind of enhance what they would do for their own settings in their own schools, and there's a massive difference. And this is just an example of a teacher in Tinto using Seesaw. They've got their days organised there. It looks completely different. I was handing out the digital inclusion iPads on Friday, and there was a lot of parents asking me, is it going to be different this time? And because we have that facility in Glasgow for the digital inclusion iPads, as well as shared iPads, as well as primary 7 to year 6 having iPads, it is going to be different this time. And there's going to be more opportunities to provide effective online learning to support our pupils, but also our families, because they're looking for that as well. We're going to look at what already exists, and I've said that, Apple Teachers in action on the Apple Teacher Programme. There's some things that are there already you can pick up and begin to use, and little ideas that you can use in your own sense to think about, well, what can I do for my learners, specifically the ones that are using the kind of Apple products. But they also might give you other ideas that you will use for your own VLM, virtual learning environment, VLE, for Seesaw or Shobi. Going to share some Keynote. Teachers love something to give them that kind of starter for time. Well, I know I do especially. So we'll share some Keynote suggestions and templates today to reduce workload. Workload can increase at these times, even though we're not in front of classrooms, and there's an expectation on parents that they want lessons, and also for teachers to provide them. But it can be incredibly challenging if you've got your own life commitments, your own home commitments. I've got a 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I'm trying to homeschool them as well as doing a job. So little Keynote ideas and sharing kind of some good practice and some templates that will hopefully help you. Alison is going to come in and kind of share her knowledge as an expert on Book Creator, and I love using the word expert because she knows it inside out. She's really knowledgeable with it. She doesn't like me using that phrase, but she is, because she's delivered excellent Book Creator webinars a few times for us, and she knows what she's talking about. So it's great to have her on the call today. And very simply at the very end, we'll look at a range of other kind of quick hints and tips of other things that you might want to do to just again simplify and make things easier for not only yourself but also your pupils and also your families. So that is our outcomes today. I've got a little icon throughout this Keynote today that links to external sites, and as I said, I've shared the Keynote, so if you're wanting to go back and look at these sites, you don't need to write anything down. You can just click on this little link in the Keynote when you see it popping up in the different slide pages, and that will take you to the external link for whatever it is for. So first place I'm going to start at today, because this came out recently, the Education Endowment Foundation looked at how lockdown went the first time. And they always look at these types of situations within school. They look at the impact of them for cost, for effectiveness. They look at the data, and then they kind of they build reports, and they begin to write reports about them. And the 5 things that they picked up on for are the first 5 bullet points there. And one of them was that teaching quality is key to effectiveness. Now, as I said, my own experience of that in the last few days is looking online and seeing what's happening on Twitter, and schools are in a much better place than they were previously because they've had that time to get prepared, and that is crucial for not only yourself about reducing that workload, that stress, that anxiety, but also for our pupils and their families. So the quality of teaching is effective. Yes, there can be quantity as well, but quality is going to be the key here. I've seen examples of people just answering repetitive sums online, and I can see them immediately switching off on that. They don't have the teacher there prodding them along, encouraging them, giving that kind of help and kind of coaxing them into things. So they begin to switch off because it's low level recall, remembering things, and that's not always right for all your types of learners. There's got to be quality to engage them, to excite them. Children like Facebook and YouTube and playing FIFA for a reason, so if we can use some of those kind of approaches within our own learning, within our own teaching, will more likely improve the amount of quality for our learners, but also engage them. We've got to ensure our pupils can access the resource. If a virtual learning environment's not the thing for your learners, or it's not for your school, then books and jotters are absolutely fine and completely appropriate. But if it is, are our pupils getting access? There's lots of my proxy things going on. There's lots of people who can't get access to this, that and the thing. Getting over that barrier first, removing that anxiety for parents. That worry, parents want to start lessons at 9:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. But getting to a password reset is the first thing you need to do, or helping them with the fact that a screen's blank on an iPad. So just removing all those barriers for our pupils and our families leads to them having a better experience when they eventually get online. Peer interactions also work. That can sometimes be deemed as not as accessible as it is in the classroom, because you can sit kids in groups, but you can create groups within different facilities, whether it's Showbie, Seesaw, Teams or Google Classrooms. You can share work with specific pupils. You can signpost them and tag them that you're going to work in a group of 4 to do this task, and you're each going to do this role within this task to produce this for the rest of it. Peer pressure also has a big impact on engagement, knowing that you're not wanting to let the team down. So peer interactions can have a big impact on pupil engagement, and that's again something we want to keep high and increase as much as we possibly can. Supporting the pupils to work independently, and Maria's going to show a little video later on about how she does that. It might be live lessons, it might be face-to-face lessons, it might not be, it might be videos, it might be very, very clear instructions, but think about that environment which parents and pupils are sitting in where they don't know what they're doing. So the more that we can make it simplified, the more we can break down the chunks of the learning, the more we can make it paint by numbers for them, the more likely they are to engage in the learning and want to interact with their peers, and then engage with your effective lessons that you've built. Different approaches work for different learners as well, and this has a greater impact. Yes, we default to maybe this week and next week about providing language and maths and health and wellbeing, but are there opportunities for the kids to draw? Are there opportunities for PEs? Are there opportunities for them to listen, to watch, to do the different things? Again, I've seen really, really good practice. I've seen really, really good examples of that, how we can engage learners. And today we'll be sharing some of those examples. So it's not that repetitive task that doesn't have any peer interaction, that doesn't really support learning. It's all low level remembering, and it's not engaging. And the final thing, and this is mine, is just be organised and make it simple and understand to use. If we don't have simple and easy to understand to use, we're more than likely to walk away from it. And that's applicable to anybody. If we don't understand it, we tend not to read it. We tend not to sit and take the time to actually understand it, and we'll just move on and go on to the next thing and completely ignore it. So being organised and making it simple is really, really crucial to building that successful digital day. Before I go on to the next kind of bit, if you do have any comments or anything, please keep posting them in the kind of chat box, and we'll try and answer them at little points. So before Maria comes in here to kind of explain her little video and go on to talk about a little Seesaw, your typical day has to be organised, as I said, and it has to be simple. Today, I hope you found it really simple getting in here. There's a code on CPD Manager, a link in CPD Manager. If you've joined one of these before, you knew where to come because it's always in this Creative Classrooms channel. So we're using Teams as our learning management system. And there was a timetable, there was a time to come, it was 4 to 5. Generally, as you know, they kind of start a wee bit 10 minutes earlier. There's always somebody here, there's maybe a little video playing. So that structure is going to becoming our format. Everyone knows that's the format who's been here before. And then you've got me kind of supporting that, explaining it the way I can. Sometimes I go too fast, sometimes I go slow, I don't answer comments. So if people don't know, please ask. So you create that format for yourself, that typical digital day where you use whatever it is you're using. Today it's Teams, it might be Seesaw, it might be Google Classroom. You timetable it, you make it accessible so learners know when things, they might not be able to access it at that point based on their home circumstances and the environment they're working. There might be 4 people using the same laptop. But as long as they know when you're going to be and when things are going to be there, parents like to know that. Can you do that at the end of the day as opposed to the morning? Can you do that on a Friday before a Monday? These kind of things. We would normally do work after work. I would feel comfortable doing it in my school, that I would prepare for them for the next day, the day before. So I'm just ahead of the game and I'm ahead of that curve. And then we've got little videos, if it's videos, or is it live lessons? So I'm just going to play this, and then Maria, you'll be able to explain it.
So this is my morning engagement video that I've been sending them, and I've made this in clips. Now, our iPads unfortunately don't have the facility to do this. I had to do it on my phone. It's something to do with the camera depth. So it's got an inbuilt green screen facility. And what I do, instead of them just listening to me and looking around like a blank screen behind me, I kind of talk to them about what's going on behind me. So this was a Finding Nemo one. And I asked them a wee question, and because I'd sent it as a post to them in Seesaw, they were able to comment and talk to me about it underneath. And then there's lots of different backgrounds you can use. I think there's a Monsters Inc. one that we're going to use next week to talk to them about as well. So it's just something to grab their attention in the morning. But as Richard said, if they're not available to do it in the morning, that post still stays on their feed, and they're able to access that way as and whenever their parents can help them to.
Cool, thanks. So Maria's just going to show you how she does Seesaw, how she organises her typical digital day. And one of those things is you can use clips. You can use clips on the iPads to build those little kind of interactive videos with things sparkling. For your kind of younger learners, you've got all the Star Wars features there. You've got the Disney features as well. I think Toy Story is there. Little things to just kind of get people excited for the time being that we're in this environment where we've got to learn online. So here we next slide. There's always her up with Seesaw, and Maria's going to explain to you what she does in her setting with Seesaw.
So we are using Seesaw, and it's got the facility to pre-record activities. So within the tools that they have on it, there's pen tools, highlighter tools, and there's also an audio record function. So all I've done there is find a number line, I think it was one I found off the internet, and insert it as a picture. And what I can do is I can almost teach my lesson the way I would do in class, and I can record the pen moving over the number line and speaking at the same time. Essentially, it's just a screen recording. It gives them clear instructions. You can orally tell them, especially coming from a primary one, I orally tell them their success criteria and learning intention so that they understand what it is that they're learning about that day. And they can rewind it, they can go back to it, they can go into their activity and go back and forward between the two. As you can see on this one, this is a kind of a choice board. The children, this is really good for like differentiation. You can give them different groupings to choose different activities. You could give them a choice of activities to do, because as we know, like they might not be able to do or have the time to do all of the activities you set, but they can choose dip in and out of the ones that are best suited to them. The Seesaw has, you can see in the middle picture, it's got backgrounds that you can use, so that that was a handwriting lesson that I had done, and they copied along on a piece of paper and then were able to upload a photograph of their work to me. So it's not always just doing things on tablets. It's almost like an unplugged activity as well. The choice board here has links on it. You can hyperlink to YouTube or any other website, but you can also, very much like Keynote and PowerPoint now, link within the slides. So you can go forward and back between all of the slides. This is something that I've just started doing recently. I had tried it with my class in October and they had quite liked it for homework, but we've started doing it now. We're learning online every day. And how I made this was, it's just essentially a picture that I got off the internet, which I inserted into Keynote. I then took my Bitmoji, put my Bitmoji into Keynote and used the Instant Alpha to take the background away. I then exported that as a picture and put it into Seesaw, and that was where I was able to put in my little pictures of my activities and link to the activities within. You can also add text and things all over the top of it. I should have said already that any picture can be added in, so we were talking in our school about things like using things that you already have. So for instance, I've got quite a few of those activities I've made up that you can see on that one. But if you had a PowerPoint for a really good lesson that you have already used, you can use that within Seesaw. You can screenshot it and put it in. You can then audio record over the top of that. So again, pre-recording, teaching your lesson as you would have in the classroom, but just making it accessible at home for them. Again, this is just some of the backgrounds that are available on Seesaw, so the handwriting line background, the squares and the dots. Another thing that we found really helpful over the last couple of days is the ability to give the children audio comments. So it means that it's a wee bit more personalised and they're hearing your voice, and you're able to do that at the end when you're correcting their work, or you can do it over the top of their work. So if they submit something to you, if they've done their handwriting, instead of me writing them a big long arduous sentence on yes or no, what was right or what was wrong, I can then just do an audio comment over the top of it and even write it beside it and show them again how to do it.
Thanks very much, Maria.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you find, like, just one question before we say to other people they can post comments or questions in the kind of chat feature, do you find that reduces workload by adding just audio comments?
Oh, absolutely. It's much quicker. It's great for them, and I think it's really good for us. And I probably find that they're a wee bit more differentiated, the comments, than if I'm typing them, if I'm honest, and a lot more personalised to what the child's done.
Cool. And a nice thing for parents to hear as well, and also the children to hear that kind of thing as well. So that connection, so yeah, we're online and we're in our houses and we're not in front of teachers, but there's that connection to your teacher in your classroom, your classmates as well. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions for Maria, you can just post them in the chat comment and we'll get back to them. So Maria was speaking there about her environment where they use Seesaw in my school, and I've got some of my colleagues on today who are from my school, so I better not make a mess of this. We use Google Classroom, and here's 2 examples of 2 days so far this week, Monday and Tuesday, and how the tasks are organised and really simple for people to see what they're doing and what is there for them to engage in. So we are supporting, that's that bit about supporting learners. So we're not making the tasks in different places, we're not creating different folders for different things. We've got days where we know they can go to, where they're signposting them. And then we've got a numeracy task, we've got a writing task, and we've got a writing start and activity task. If you click on them in Google Classroom, it then breaks down into this. And Miss Connolly is on the call. So, Erin, do you want to come in at this stage and comment on this, or do you want me to keep going with it? It's entirely up to you.
Hi.
Hi.
I can.
Yeah, on you go, because it's your work. So you talk about it, please.
So basically, we always just keep the tasks and broken up into topics, just to keep the kids right, so they know when they go in the morning, this is the folder that they're looking at. And then we have obviously our literacy task, our numeracy task, and then we have one extra task, which is just to give the parents a bit of flexibility, just sort of tasks that they can choose from. But for example, for this writing sort of main task, we've got our learning intentions and things in the description, and then we have sort of instructions, things like that. My stage partner made this one up, and I made the maths this week, but we include the video tutorials and things like that. We try and give as much information as we possibly can, and all of the ingredients and things like that they're going to need to complete this task, all in the same place, just so that the kids don't have to go anywhere or anything like that. They've been using the iPads for a couple of months now, so they're able to do quite a lot. We're trying to keep the apps similar to the apps that they were using in class, and the procedure quite similar, just so that takes away a bit of the issues and the pressures for parents as well, if that makes any sense.
Yep, that's brilliant, Erin. So we haven't had our iPads for very long, and thank you very much for reminding us that. We've only had them for 2 months, and this is what's achievable. And Erin and our other colleague Stuart have worked like super hard, tirelessly trying to facilitate that kind of digital environment where children know they can come onto and everything's simplified. So that's that bit again about supporting learners, so making it easy. There's a learning intention, there's a success criteria, there's instructions of what they're going to do, there's familiarity with it, and also those video links, which I think is so engaging for those types of learners. It's differentiated, and they've got tasks to go along with that as well, different parts of writing going on at different times, using your senses or doing it onomatopoeia, and that's trying to engage those different types of learners that like to learn from those different types of techniques and approaches. So thank you very much for sharing that, Erin. It's the same as maths as well, again, like Erin was saying there, that again with the learning intention, we've got the success criteria, and then they've got the broken down bullet points of what they want the children to do. And my own kids are learning at home, and they've got a very, very similar format. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really simple for parents to read. You know you're to do this, you know you're to do this. I know what the instructions are coming from my little girls' classroom, so it's really easy. And then all the attachments are there as well, so everything's in one place. Similar to Maria's, hers was on one page with all the little links that might take you to an external site or might take you to another part of the Keynote or PowerPoint. Erin and Stuart and Kings Park have got theirs in every tasks within day to day. So thank you very much, Erin. So that's two ways of different schools and how they're kind of structuring that day. So they've got successful days for online learning for pupils and families, to try and encourage that engagement, to try and make sure there's effective learning in there and that children are challenged with what it is they're doing and they're not just doing those kind of low order tasks which it requires them to just remember stuff and do their times tables. And that's not what we would be doing all the time in classrooms anyway. And if you've got that virtual environment that's set up online, whether it's Seesaw or Showbie, and that's the type of teaching you did in class anyway, high end, effective, you challenging your learners, you can still do that online with these kind of platforms. If you're familiar with the Apple Teacher Programme, and you can use your Apple ID to sign up for it if you haven't already, there's a bit in it called Apple Teachers in Action, and it's just showing you how teachers in different schools across the world have used either Pages, Keynotes or iMovie to build content for learners, and it can be used remotely, it can be used online. These schools a lot of them are Apple distinguished schools with one-to-one deployment within their schools, so very, very similar to some of our settings, and it's teachers who have built content on Pages, iMovie or Keynote to learn day to day, week to week, which involves pupil choice. It gives independent learning tasks because it is choice and they're building day to day. The little example there of JFK is a really good one. It's Keynote and it's creating a kind of timeline of what happened to JFK. They're doing voice recordings, they're using the sketches to draw the pictures of them, and then they're using the typing and text tool to create that kind of biography of them. So quite a lot going on there. Pages one is very similar, capturing photos and scenes. But it's a place to go, not necessarily for now, but maybe in the future, to see how iPads are used by, as I said, Apple distinguished educators and Apple distinguished schools, and how they're using them for the learners and making the kind of teaching and learning and teaching really, really effective. It's quite hard to find in the Apple Teacher Programme. There's a kind of bar that kind of scrolls across the middle. It's not one of the tags, news, home or profile. I've not found it that way anyway. You kind of scroll along to the end past the bit about clips, and I think there's even another bit about remote learning, but you find it at the end of one of these kind of slide bars. But it's worth having a look at, if not today, maybe another time. So that's Apple Teacher. And the little icon there, the little screen, the little pink screen, is a link to Apple Teacher, so you don't need to find that or type that in if you're not familiar with it. And as I said, because you're wanting to engage with your peers, because we've got the iPads and because we've got Keynote, if you've got Teams set up, you've got OneDrive set up, you've got Showbie set up, you've got Seesaw set up, you can now share with your learners so they can begin to collaborate. You might have different slides set for different pupils, depending on how you're sharing that in your environment, but because of the way the iPad works, really, really straightforward to share things. You just either press the little icon button there, the little peg person, or you can press the three little dots that allows you to share whatever you create in Keynote, Pages or iMovie through that virtual learning environment app or the learning management system that you're using. So Apple Teacher, and how have they created these things, and how do we begin to create some of these things for our learners so it's effective? Well, content is king. Content engages learner. Good lessons make for good learning. So that's what we're trying to do, and we can still try to strive towards doing that even now when we're in this kind of online environment. If I was to take any two apps to a desert island with me, I would be taking Book Creator and Keynote because I like them. I'm a primary school teacher. That suits me. Everyone else will have their go-tos. Might be PowerPoint, might be Keynote. It doesn't matter. You go to what was good for you. The two books there, Let's Make Stuff, 20 Keynote Creations and Book Creators, I've created slides for them at the end. They're available in the Apple Bookstore, as is the last one, the Visible Thinking with Keynote. And what they do is they just show you ideas of how other Apple distinguished educators have used stuff that's already out there, thinking routines, skills development within language, and how they've built that around the platforms of Keynote or Pages, and how they've integrated them within those apps so the children can begin to use them as a kind of interactive jotter. Things that lots of you will be doing already. But these books show you how they're done digitally and how you can create them digitally so your pupils can engage in them digitally. So you get that backwards and forwards evidence of work getting created digitally that you can always use for assessment and you can always use for moderation. The visible thinking ones is really good, but I didn't get a copy of that, unfortunately. But if you're looking for it, you can just look for these books within the Apple bookstore, and they should come up. And they also link to other books with lots and lots of different ideas. Again, if it's not the right time to look at them, then don't. But if there's maybe time in the future you're thinking, I'm looking for some inspiration to create some Keynote content or book creator content, you could start with looking at these books, and they're really, really good and really, really useful. And I used them to create this statistic creation because I like creating a week's worth of work or maybe 2 weeks worth of work ahead for my learners when we get into this environment. Particularly, I would do it in class anyway, but particularly now because I want to make it effective for my learners. I want to make it easy for my parents to understand if they're sitting helping pupils. I want them to be something different from day to day for different types of learners to engage in them, and I want them to get through quality tasks that, yeah, they would take maybe a bit longer to in class, because I would be sitting there helping them and coaxing them and supporting them, but I'm still using the examples in those books previously, Keynote creations and the book creator one, to create these kind of tasks that will look similar to some of the things you would set for your own pupils in your own settings. So start off really easy, big heading, chapter 1, kid normal, read the chapter. This book comes from World Book Day. It's completely downloadable as a PDF version, and World Book Day is really good because it also has extracts of books, so you can begin to use them. You can copy them and use them in your own settings for learners if you've not already got a kind of digital book. DK Books, who kind of make those the non-fiction books, kind of topic books, they've also got a similar page. Again, they've got downloadable PDFs that you can use for Romans. They've also set that into kind of early, middle and upper school, so you can look at the right target for your setting. I've got really clear instructions. I want them to read the chapter, look up the words, use the speak function on the Apple, because if you get 7s to S6s, they can do that. If you've got younger children at home with shared iPads or digital inclusion iPads, they can also do the same. So we're developing those digital skills. Tell them not to skip ahead, because I would tell them that in class. Give them something funny that they can think about. Does reading actually make you smarter? Because that's the sorts of things you would fling into class. And then I signpost them to specifically what I want them to do. I want them then to complete your 4 tasks. And the 4 tasks are these tasks. Now I've got 3 little boxes there. The one, I've just built this the way to kind of explain it, but you could make it look like this, where you have a box with your instructions in it. You maybe have something else. The one there where it says see, write, hear, say, I've just shown you a screenshot of the 20 creations in Keynote and how it looks in that book, and I've modified it for my own setting. So I want them to find 5 words and enter them in the blue column. I then want them to use the write tool, the animation tool, the drawing tool within Keynote or Pages to write it, and then want them to record it using the record function, the record feature, by saying it, and then I want them to change it. I want them to change it to synonym or something, and that's the kind of skills development that my learners would be familiar with in class, because we've been learning that prior to lockdown. We're doing it before Christmas, and they know that kind of, if I want them to change it, I say those words, change it, they know what they have to do with that word. So it's not copious amounts of writing. It's not write the date, write the title, write your learning intention. It's just 25 boxes where I can get them to learn some things that I would get them to learn within class anywhere, in a jotter, on an iPad or on a whiteboard. The next task is a more comprehension-based task. Again, I've got a little square there that would explain to them what I wanted them to do. I've got the example of what it is in the 20 Keynote creations. But then I've got my own 4 boxes where I want them to write down 3 things the main character did. I want them to write sentences their own word. I want them to find an image of someone who behaves like the main character, and they can go to the internet for that. And then I want them to use their 5 alive senses. What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you see? That kind of thing. And Erin, my colleague, had spoke about that earlier. So things I'd already been developing in class that I knew they would understand. Comprehension task. So I've had a vocabulary task there. I've now got a comprehension task. I've now got a different creation task where I want them to use Sketchnote. So, like I said, we're trying to engage different type of learners and different types of learning styles. So not always writing, not always necessarily, if this was a Nuri task, answering sums. This time I'm getting them to use the sketch feature. I could get them to draw a setting. I could get them to describe a character by drawing it. I could get them to keep a timeline. I can keep them to make a sketch note and keynotes of all the things that's happening in the book, or if it was for topic, something for topic, or if it was data for data handling, anything at all. So you can use the sketch notes feature. Explain Everything is another one of the apps that does the kind of same thing. It kind of encourages you to draw things as well as write. So that option's there to engage your learners. And then I've got this kind of final task where I want them to summarise and not lose the plot, because that's often what we want pupils to do, because we have to keep going back. So I've got chapter 1 or character 1, what are they up to, what are they doing, and they just begin to keep a timeline of everything that's happening in the book or the text, whatever it is they're writing. That could be examples of their maths development, of the different types of shapes they're learning about, or anything at all. The context is completely changeable, but timelines are great things for not just using for timelines, but also to see that kind of development. So I signposted them to the tasks that I wanted to do, because I've given them this introduction for chapter 1. I would do the same thing for chapter 2, but I might change the tasks. I might keep the same 3 tasks, but I might change it, and I would get 2 weeks worth out of learning. So because I've created, go back to that one, sorry. Because I've created these, I don't need to create them again next week, because I've created them. All I need to do is duplicate them within Keynote, so just duplicate the slide and then put them into chapter 2 for the children to do the exact same skill. It doesn't require me to do anything other than copy and pasting. I don't need to type anything other than chapter 2, and I get them to engage in that learning as well. So that is a time saver, using Keynote or PowerPoint or something like that, where you can just copy and paste and duplicate. And that's the demo page that I used from Keynote. I just used the 3-box version. I changed the big one into a table. You do that just by pressing the plus in Keynote and adding a table. The bottom one there on the bottom right hand side, I changed that into the text box, and I might have had something else at the top. If I wanted to, like Maria and Erin were saying earlier on, I could record my voice if I wanted to and give them an actual hearing of a sound of what I wanted them to do, so I can explain to them as well. And you might have to do that in your own settings depending on the types of learners that you've got. So I'm just going to pause there before I move on to the next one and see if there's any questions. Maria, just one question for you. We'll be able to show you how you do voiceover with a link to the PowerPoint, please. How is it you do the voiceover within your Seesaws?
Sorry, I should have explained that. The PowerPoint that she used was a PowerPoint she had, and she screenshotted each slide and then she inserted them into Seesaw. So when you have them all, it almost looks like a PowerPoint or Keynote down the side. Then what you do is you press the voice record button. There's just a wee microphone button, and you can then flick through each of the slides. And what that will then do, once you've finished doing all of your chat on it, it saves it as a whole video. So it's not an audio recording on each individual slide. It makes a video, compresses it into a video and puts it at the top of the Seesaw activity. So you could then, if you wanted to, delete all the rest of the slides out of it and just leave it as a video for the children to watch.
Cool. Hopefully that makes that a wee bit clearer. Thanks very much. So any questions, again, we'll stop every so often and we'll answer them as best we can. That was a literacy example I showed you. A huge fan of building content around an IDL topic, and if I was a class teacher at the moment, and I'm not, I'm a deputy, and I'd went into this environment where it's online, I would be using my IDL topic as my vehicle for my learning, because that's the way I would have taught, and I wouldn't have had separate tasks. But that's just for me, and that's what I would feel comfortable in. That's the thing, you've got to do what's best for you in your environments. And again, I would have built lots and lots of slides for my children to engage with, and this is one of them. This is Voyage Earth. Voyage Earth is the context of Google Earth. Google Earth is a phenomenally powerful piece of kit. It does unbelievably amazing things other than just shows you how to get places. And it's really cool, and I'm going to show you it briefly. So the context is Google Earth, using that as a vehicle, and I would use forums at the end. Forums is a kind of sometimes an untapped into resource. People just think you can use it for getting information from webinars, for example, like we're going to do today at the end, but you can use it for far more than that. You can use it to set up quizzes, you can use it to get back information from your users, and you get to keep all that data. So you can still use it for assessment and moderation, and you can use it for marking. And I'm just going to briefly show you how Google Earth works. And again, it might not be for today, it might be for something else. Google Earth works on the iPads. You can get access to it even though there's not the app. It takes a wee while to load sometimes in the iPads because it's quite a big resource. And because I've given the children a link, they come into this Everest Base Camp. And in Everest Base Camp, it will take you to the first kind of task, and you whiz around the Earth. You end up with your map kind of in the central there. You've got a little kind of focused image, and then you've got this kind of text. And what I'd explained, because like Maria had done, I'd created a little video of what I wanted my learners to do. I could use the image for talk about, what do you see, what do you think, what do you wonder, do you think people are rich, do you think people are poor, what do you notice compared to where you live, that kind of thing. So I can do all that, and then I can get them to read through these little slides here. And there's only 8 of them in this expedition. So they would go on to the next one, they would read that, it would zoom them to somewhere else, so I think that's pretty engaging for children. You're going on this kind of journey, you're whizzing around, they love to move things around and fidget and pull and push things, and Google Earth allows you to do that. It's very kind of kinesthetic and kind of hands-on. Again, they would look at the images, find out what's going on, find out what's going on in this text. So I'm getting all the comprehension, I'm getting all the reading, I'm getting them to develop their digital literacy skills as well. And then they would go on and on and on through the 8 little steps of the base camp journey. And here's this one here. Kumjong Sherpa village at 12,434 feet, that's 3,799 metres, with a school, bakery, shops and hotels. And the local guide says it's the most welcoming village in the Himalayas. So if I go back to my Keynote, and I'll show you how that would now work. I've got the introductory slide, I've got the introduction to what it is they're going to do. Hi, how you doing, boys and girls? I could voice over this. This is Voyage Earth. It's an 8-day adventure that will take you on a wonderful journey around a beautiful planet. You will scale the highest heights, find out about culture, travel and nature. So I'm giving them all these slides, and I've used a website called Slides Mania, and you can just kind of see it there on the left hand side. Slides Mania is a free to use Google Slides and PowerPoint website. It's got tons of different slides in there that you can download. There's ones for infants, colourful, bright, bold, lots and lots of lettering on it, numbers, and then there's ones for older children as well. It's got different search options. You can search for colours and themes, but they're all free. You just kind of make sure you're mentioning them wherever you're using it. And you can also, because they're PowerPoint and Google Slides, you can then put them into Keynote as well, and I've built this in Keynote. I would give them the instructions. Again, we're supporting learners by giving them very, very clear instructions. I would give them a little inference on day 1. So this is day 1 beginning. This is kind of the new content, touching the sky. I'd give them a little inference image to kind of hopefully engage them and get them thinking about where they're going. I would give them a little synopsis, a summary. Ever wondered what it's like to walk up the highest mountain in the world? And then this Let's Go is the link that takes the learners, pupils, to Google expeditions. So it takes them all the way to the link. So I'm creating all that. I'm not giving them an extra link somewhere saying click here. I'm just telling them where they need to go in this slide, and it would take them there. They would then come back to this slide, and I would get them to test their knowledge strength by answering these questions. What's the highest mountain in the world called? And if you see there, number 3, name things you would find in a town called Kumjung. I think it was a bakery, a school, and I can't even remember the next one. I had a shop. So if I didn't know, I could go back to Google and find the answer. And here where it says submit your answers, that's the link that takes you to the form. And I can show you that now by just clicking on here. And this now takes me to a form that they can answer. And forms is really, really easy to do. Question 1, the right answer there. Question 2, the right answer there. Question 3, I can make it fancy. Forms is really straightforward. You create a form and then you hit share, and then you can share it with whoever you want. The one I used today for our evaluation is this copy. So I create the form and I just copy it over to you. That's the link you would copy into the Keynote, and then learners can begin to engage in answering it. So you've got all that evidence of people, what they're doing. So you've still got moderation opportunities, you've still got assessment opportunities, you've still got opportunities to speak to parents about what children's strengths are and maybe where they've got to work towards as well. So using Google, using expeditions, and then using a Keynote to kind of build that content. If you haven't been on at Google, it's worth having a look, because that's just one example. The Everest Base Camp, there's lots of things for travel, there's lots of things for education, there's animals, it takes you all around the world, Google Earth, and there's lots and lots of different, they call them voyagers, I always think of them as voyages, but you can go and visit those different voyages, and find out about different things in the world. And as I say, you can probably get about 2 weeks worth of kind of work out that. We used it previously in my setting with ThingLink, where we kind of use Google Earth links, and our ThingLink's a really powerful tool. We're going to show you at the end how you can use that. And it was really successful in our school because it tells you the data, how many people were engaging with it a day, and we were getting figures back of 100 engagements a day, and that was during the first lockdown. Now we've got a school roll of 370, so yes, maybe some pupils were coming back to it 2 and 3 times a day, but still we think 100 is quite good based on the circumstances that we found ourselves. So ThingLink and Google Expeditions has a kind of powerful draw for people because of the way it's kind of built and Thinglin's built. The last thing I would get them to do, and again I would get them to think about how they can develop their skills, is get them to write down a fact they now know, opinion they now have, and draw something like. So there's personalisation and choice in that. There's also creating an evaluation, which is a kind of higher order thinking skill. So it's not always remembering and understanding through comprehension skills. I want them to stamp their feelings on it and what they think about something, because that's incredibly important. So a fact that they now know, an opinion they now have, and then they draw something. And I would copy that template again and again and again. So if I go to do that on my second day, or my second day, go back to here, sorry. I don't need to copy that because that's my intro slide. I don't need to copy that because that's my introduction. I don't need to copy that, that's my instructions. I would copy that one, change the title because it's Keynote. I'd put a different image in there. I would have a different summary, a kind of synopsis of what's going on. And I'd have different 5 questions. And that, I don't think that's a great deal of work. It's one title, one introduction, one image, and then 5 questions. I think at the maximum that would take me an hour. So I don't need to create something new every single day because I'm using Keynote and I'm using a template and I'm using a format where I'm only adapting some of it. That one would always stay the same as well. So Keynote, Slide Mania, and something on the internet that they can engage in, or that you know is available, is a really, all those together, collated into one thing, has a really powerful way of kind of engaging those learners and not creating excessive workloads at an incredibly challenging time for teachers. So if you have any questions about that, about those two kind of formats I showed you there, those 2 templates for Keynote, the literacy one and the idea one, please answer in the chat. As I said, I've left them in this Creative Classrooms channel. They're shared along with the Keynote itself, the one we're sharing at the moment. So they're all there. You can take them away, you can pull them apart. And if you've got any questions before I hand over to Alison, who's going to show you that there are more than 50 ways to use Book Creator, please put your questions in the chat. Okay, Alison? I hope you're there.
Yeah, Richard, I'm here. I am, yeah.
Cool.
So, good to go?
Yep.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, I said I'm Alison Burns, I'm over in St Ninians. The Book Creator app is one that is available in our self-service. So if you go straight into Book Creator, the first thing that will come up is the option to pick a sort of template to start working from. So I don't want to sound like that guy off the news, Richard, but like, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a template that comes up, which gives you the option to add in things like photographs or pictures that you're taking. It gives you a pen tool where the children can write or draw. You can add text boxes, you can add audio clips, and you can start to build up what your page can look like. Now, this is sort of the standard template. There is also a comic book template that you can choose. And when you click into the comic book template, you have the option to add panels. And you automatically get some wee kind of extra bits that allow you to add these sort of comic book features, which I think the children really get quite excited about. It's quite straightforward. Everything you want to add to it is always found in the wee plus sign at the top. And you just start to kind of build up page by page. Now, I've not been class committed for a wee while, so I did what all good teachers do, which is shamelessly steal examples from other people who are doing really good work. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how some of my friends have used it in their classroom. So the first example is from good old Maria. Maria used it in her class when she had her little pesky elf come to visit over Christmas time. So this was primary 1. And all the children did was they worked in small groups and they took a picture of what their elf had done today and typed up a little sentence as to what to describe what was happening in the picture. And over the course of the month of December, they built up their book over a period of time. If I then went to Mrs. White down in Corpus Christi, she uses it for science journals. So if you have a look at this one, she took her children... Oh, there we go. She took her children out a kind of walk outside to have a look at senses as to what was going on in the environment. And by being able to add in a table, she was able to look and take photographs to add things about things that they could touch, see, hear, was either them describing and talking about what they could hear when they were outside, or in some cases they actually took an audio recording of a noise that they could hear outside, and they were able to build that up. They were also using it when they did an electricity topic. And you'll see on this page when they were talking about circuits, they were able to take photographs of the circuit they'd made, they were able to draw circuit diagrams, and they were also able to put in a little video of their circuit working, or in some cases not working. The last one is from Mrs. Sharkey over in St. Philomena's, she used that comic book template, and rather topical, to do a sort of lockdown themed one. This was done just before the summer, and the children were able to kind of build up what the sort of advice was for the coronavirus, and add in pictures of their own, as well as adding the little caption text for the comic book. So Book Creator is a fantastic tool. Now, as Richard said, the best place to I always like the kind of further learning elements of it. If you go into the Book Creator website, they have a fantastic teacher's resource section, a really fantastic teacher's resource section. I would recommend you make an account with them, because it does allow you to make an account using your Glow email through Microsoft, so you can use your Glow email address to access it. But the teacher's resource section has the most fantastic examples of how lots and lots of people have used Book Creator. If you Google 50 ways to use Book Creator in your classroom, you'll get a book that Book Creator themselves have made. And that just shows you umpteen different ways that you can apply it in your class. And also, they have a fantastic Twitter feed where they're constantly retweeting how other people have used it. And so if you are struggling with kind of where to start with it and how to get going with it, I always say, steal an idea from somebody else and use that. If you see something that looks really good and really would be really engaging for your class, take it, adapt it and use it. They actually just tweeted last night. I don't know if anybody saw it, but they put a tweet last night saying that they're to keep, stay tuned. There's going to be these amazing new features coming to Book Creator. So it's a bit of a teaser, so I don't actually know what they're meaning, but I could recommend following them on Twitter. The final thing, if you go into their website, they have their own sort of CPD program. So when I go into their website, this kind of yellow banner appears along the top that kind of invites you to become a certified author, where you can learn more. And if you go into it, there is a training course you can sign up for, and each element of it is about 5 minutes long. The best thing about it is you can kind of go away and come back to it. You don't need to do it all in a winner. It will take, I would say, probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours to work your way through it. And there's a video that you watch for each little bit of it. And at the end of it, you become a Book Creator certified author. And it takes you through every single feature that Book Creator has and then how you would use it. The only thing I would say about it is it does focus very heavily on the desktop application, not the iPad. I would say about 90% of it is relevant to the mobile application, but it does look at the desktop version of it rather than the mobile one. But there's only maybe a few features that are not applicable to the iPad. But that's really kind of where you would go to get kind of information to get yourself started. But that's us, Richard.
Cool. Thank you very much, Alison. I love Book Creator. And I think about it like, if I thought Microsoft was the most complicated thing for a child to use, and then the second least complicated thing for a child to use would be Keynote, or Microsoft Word, sorry, and then Keynote, I think of Book Creator as being the completely decluttered version of that, where it just is that plus button, and you can see, I think it's a little girl possibly here, and then you just get those simple options of text, pen, and you can begin to create content from day to day, week to week again. It's also got an artificial intelligence aspect to it. It's a kind of wonder pen where you start drawing something and it begins to pick what you're drawing. So if you're not very good like me, like art, it kind of helps you. It saves you a wee bit there. It kind of saves your embarrassment ever so slightly. But Book Creator is really, really good. But thanks.
It's also very good, I think, if you're making, like as a teacher, if you're making an instruction book for something, it's also very easy to share that book into something like Showbait or Seesaw. You can upload it directly into that platform without really having to do anything fancy to make it fit. It kind of uploads as a PDF, and then you can just view it as a book within that platform. So it's a very shareable resource as well.
Cool. Thank you very much, Alison. And if anyone has any questions for Alison or anybody else, just continue to post them in the chat. Mr. Blair Gardner, you had asked about how do you embed the URL into the Let's Go. If you've got a box or a word, if you've got a box, you just press it like an object on Keynote. You just press it, and then the options like copy, delete, paste pop up, and link also pops up. If you have a word, you need to highlight, so you need to select a word as if you're kind of copying it by dragging those little blue things to select it, and then again this kind of second option there as it pops up and it says link. And that's where you hit link, and then you link it to the website to whatever you want to. So you can do two things. You can link objects, like I've linked there, the little pink screen. You can also link words that would take you to different places as well. So it's pretty straightforward, it's worth having a play about with. So that's us done a little bit of how you would organise your day. We've looked at a bit of Seesaw, we've looked at a bit of Google Classroom, we've looked at a bit of Keynote and how you can use Google Expeditions, Google Voyager, Google Earth, and we've looked at a little bit of Book Creator. And our kind of last thing today is looking at not the necessarily best of the rest, because you use what you want to use in your environment, what you feel comfortable with. And this is not the best of the rest. This is just me using silly titles as normal to try and catch attention. But there are some really, really straightforward and easy ones out there to use that have been tried and tested by lots and lots of people during lockdown and prior to lockdown in those own digital environments that do work and are kind of lauded, like, for example, their Book Creator and Seesaw. Photo and using markup, whether you're using markup in Seesaw or Showbie, those using the markup to highlight things, to draw around, to record videos on, to record your voice is really, really powerful, and that's about supporting learners. So taking photographs of things and signposting them is really good, and adding text to that or some sort of highlight points people in the right direction. And again, it supports pupils, but it also supports families. Chatterpix is straightforward as well, and you can use it for anything. A wee bit funnier than just like taking a photograph of a maths book or a TJ page or whatever it would be you were using is maybe use Chatterpix for that. Draw the little line across Chatterpix and then get your voice saying, look, here's your time page today, boys and girls. I want you to answer all your questions on 24-hour time and then post your answers back in Google Classroom or whatever it is you're using. It's just a wee bit more fun. It's a wee bit more engaging. It gets that kind of, oh, I've got another math page, as opposed to, oh, my teacher's talking to me through this worksheet. That's hilarious and that's silly and that's a bit daft. So it's a good thing to use Chatterpix again. Explain Everything. Briefly mentioned that earlier. Really, really powerful app for kind of building day-to-day content again and again and again and again. Much simpler than Keynote because you don't even need to add pages, add in another page. It's just one big massive whiteboard that keeps going outwards. And again, you can use text, you can use animation, you can use drawing, you can add in videos, you can add in your voice, so lots and lots to do there. Clips we spoke about previously, either making videos for your children or children making the videos for themselves or young people and then sending it back. Really, really useful clips. And as I said, for your younger learners, you've got the kind of Mickey Mouse and the R2D2 and the Chewbacca and all that and the Toy Story there sitting there that can be embedded within the little clip you make, and it's much easier to use than iMovie. It's a bit simpler and it goes both ways now, so it goes portrait and it goes landscape. So it only ever used to go portrait, now it goes landscape. Wakelet, if you're not seen, is worth looking at as well. Similar to Book Creator, there's opportunities to kind of do professional learning in Wakelet. But the last thing I want to do today is show you very quickly ThingLink, and you can show ThingLink really quickly because it's such an easy resource to use. Share a ThingLink is something that you can do to kind of engage your learners. It's dead easy. It is just adding tags to an image. You get an image and then you add tags to it. It can't be any simpler. You can make it as complicated and as cluttered as you want. I created this football one at the last lockdown. I had all the badges there. I got all the images off Wikipedia. And I added all different links, things that I'd already previously talked about, like if there was a money one, it was always going to be about money. If it was a number one, it was going to be about player. So I signposted that in a little video. The other one here, we copied the map there, not of Scotland, the world map of Africa. Was about Race Across the World. So we just pinched the idea that was on the BBC programme and created this Race Across the World. And you can see the different colours there of different things. So we had number one, which was the introduction to task. We used the magnifier to show a map of where the place was. We had a link to a YouTube video, mostly tourist videos about that place. And then we had a camera, which was one stunning image, the most beautiful image you could get of that place possibly on Google. And then we had differentiated tasks there with 1, 2, 3, similar to the Chili challenges within Glasgow Counts. 1 was kind of easy that we wanted everyone to engage in. 2 was a kind of slightly more challenging one. 3 was a creative one. That was the one about taking a picture of yourself somewhere or sending back a menu from Italy or Brazil, and we try to go to different kind of countries within our school. That could be something really good for your EAL learners to take them on a journey because of that kind of sense of trying to keep them attached to the school and something, maybe not for now, but maybe for later, but it has the option to do that. The Scotland map one there, It's just animals within Scotland. As I said, you can add a tag to any image you want to, and you can you can add in text to it, you can add your voice to it, you can also add a video to it, so you can kind of build the tag itself. And here is a very quick demonstration of how you can do that in ThingLink. So here is the ThingLink education site. You can sign up by clicking the little login at the top right hand side, and you can use your Microsoft credentials, the same ones that you use to log into Glow. Click the little Microsoft icon. I've already previously logged in, so it's going to take me straight in. And because you've got access to it through your Microsoft account with Glow, you will get access to the free version of the website. There is also a paid version, you need to look at that yourself, but the free version is excellent. There's some of the examples I was showing you earlier on, the race across the world, the football one, and also the interactive map. But right there I'm just going to show you how quickly and how easily it is to create a ThingLink that you can then share with your pupils and young people. Up the top here you've got the create button. You hit create, it asks you what you want to upload, and you can upload videos, and you can create 360 videos as well, and there is an image bank within ThingLink that you can use for that type of content. But I'm just going to show you very quickly how to do it with an image. You can use any image. You could use a classroom background, you could use an image that you've been using in class for topic, for French, for Spanish, for Italian, for any of the sciences, any subject area whatsoever, and you can use it. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to open it, and then it uploads it, and then it gives me my first background for my ThingLink. This images came from Unsplash, and Unsplash is available on your school iPad. I don't think you can get connectivity in school anymore, but you certainly can in the house, and it's got a bank of really high quality images. You just put in the genre that you want and it'll search for you, but it's very similar to Google Images. So now, as I want to build this picture, I could use it for creative writing, I could use any image at all, and I'm just using this one as an example. You've only got these three options here, and the first one you're going to use is to add the tag. You can have a very simple just text tag that has just text, and you also get to select different types of icons. You've got your kind of Twitter, your Facebook, and you've also got numbers and images. And the great thing is you can change the colour of them as well, so you can have colour codes for different reasons and different options, and also just have difference. So that is the text tag. But if you want to add one that's got a little more detail within the tag, here it is here, and you've got these more options. I'm going to change the icon. I'm going to make it a picture. I'm going to change it to green. I'm going to add a title, and that is where your title would go. You can see it. Here is where the content. Oop. Can't spell content. Good. Go. I can put in a link to a website. I'm just going to put in www.bbc.co.uk, and then I can put a little description for the URL button. Click here, and that's as easy as it gets. I can also add in another image that goes outside. I'll just use the same one as I used there so you can see how it looks. I can open that, and I've used a different image if I had no time. You can see how that begins to fit into your kind of tag as well. If I wanted to upload and record my voice, I can, so I can have audio descriptions. And over here you'll notice so you've got the little Microsoft Immersive Reader icon, so parents and pupils can use that to read along. So it's got lots of really accessibility features there as well, which is good. If I wanted to delete the tag I could, but I'm going to done because I like it, and there you have it. You can reposition it wherever you want in your image, and then you can begin to add another tag. There you go, change the icon this time, take this one, it's a little house, make the colour red, hit done. There it is, and again I can drag it and move it to where I want it to do. I could have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right across here. I could have anything at all that I wanted to draw their attention to. I can obviously do a little introduction video to kind of help them with the details of ThingLink, and that's what we've been speaking about, how we support our learners and how we make it easy for them and also families. When I'm finished, I hit done, and there you have it. My image is ready to be shared. You just got to make sure that your settings are set correctly for anyone who you want to share it with. If you want to share it unlisted, it means it doesn't go into the ThingLink bank. If you want to share it with the public, you can. If it's unlisted, you can still share it with your learners. I'm going to do public, I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to hit the share option. If you want to embed it, you can embed it. If you want to share the link directly, now I can copy that link and I can take that link to wherever I need to, into my Google Classroom, my Seesaw, my Showbie, my Teams. It doesn't really matter where it goes, and then I can share that link with my learners. Can use it for newsletters, can use it for updates within the school, can use ThingLink for absolutely anything you think you can add information to give people information about, then you can use ThingLink. So that's ThingLink. Appreciate it's very quick, so apologies for that. I think what we'll do is probably put on a full ThingLink webinar to give you a kind of more in-depth overview of how it works and how it can be used within the classroom. So next steps might be looking at where you can find a range of professional learning, and these examples that I'm showing you here are 3 excellent examples. We have the original Connected Learning Glasgow site on YouTube. It's got a range of the Apple Teacher. It's got the full complement of Apple Teacher videos to work towards gaining your Apple Teacher recognition, as well as other apps that are on the iPad. There's Explain Everything, there's Book Creator, there's Seesaw, there's Showbie, and there's a range of other ones. So those videos are ready to look at straight away on the Connected Learning Glasgow site on YouTube. The 2 other places you can go to keep up to date with kind of examples of excellent practice throughout Glasgow are the Digital Learning for All Twitter page and also the Glasgow RTC Twitter page. Glasgow RTC is a wee bit more specific to the Apple products on the iPads, but as well as some others, but both Twitter pages are as good as each other, and they do show, as I say, a range of excellent practice that's been done throughout Glasgow. So please look back there for future professional learning opportunities, and for also update about any up and coming webinars and courses you'll be able to attend. Just want to say thank you very much for coming today. Stay safe, and we hope to see you in the future at one of our webinars. Thank you very much, and goodbye.